And here we are. Welcome to the ReBoot meeting, everybody. We have a select few who've been doing playgroups since the pandemic began, and we've gotten you through the process of getting started. But thought I would review some of the core features of 5toONE playgroups, and so hopefully we'll have some time to review those. What are they? What are the possibilities? What's open to you as a host organization? And then giving you some time to kind of think and let us know what's going to work the best for you. So with that, we're going to head to our first slide, and I thought it'd be a good quick review of playgroup features, and just this will kind of help us look at some of these elements. Not every neighborhood center utilizes every element, but some of them work pretty consistently across the network. So the individual flyer is something that many might choose to have more of because we've done away with that big complex grid of every playgroup across the network at every time. It's just getting a little too cumbersome. So we have individual flyers that you're welcome to have us create for you quarterly with those playgroup dates. New to most playgroups, and you guys have all tried this out to some extent, is the playgroup registration form. It's a Google form where that top part of the form with the text is your chance to say when your playgroups happen, what do you want to happen specifically regarding the COVID and safety precautions, who's the contact person. That's all really good information to have. So thinking about what you want to say in that form where people sign up for each playgroup they attend. Next up is a QR code. We've been doing the QR codes at check-in. There's the one for registration to actually share who's here at playgroup, names and birthdays and that sort of thing, photo release, all worked into the same form. And then having that registration go to a spreadsheet that all host organizations can access so that you can see who's attending playgroups. And so that's been really helpful. But having the QR code kind of is nice to have at the door if people register at the door. Then the next playgroup feature we have is, and that's kind of relating to COVID precautions. I'm going to ask all of the host organizations, this is your playgroup. So how do you want the safety features, safety elements represented when people come to a playgroup at your site? Snacks are another place to think about. Who's doing the snack? Is it going to be the same as it was last time? Are we going to shake it up a little bit? What kind of snack provision? Do you not want to do a snack right away? Is this something you want to wait on? So thinking about what does that look like? In the next element, again, we have the feedback. So typically you've all kind of experienced the triple QR code, one for registration, one for a health screening check-in, and then the last one is for a playgroup feedback and that evaluation image that you see there on your screen is what people see when they get there. Just really simple, again, keeping it as it was, anonymous feedback. Well, they can leave their name, it's not required, the neighborhood center that they are reporting about, and then what did they like as a parent, what did the kids like, and suggestions for changes. We have also added anything else you want us to know. Sometimes there is some feedback that doesn't fit within the parents like, kids like suggestions, that just becomes something to share. So those are the features that we're going to get back to doing, and then standing features. We want to address these standing features, the frequency at which these features will happen. So parent advisory time, you'll recall, is kind of the time the parents come together, and this is some of you, like Grow Benzies, had a parent advisory separate from playgroup, over dinner one night twice a year. Other people have parent advisory tacked on to playgroup, and every month or so. But that frequency is really up to you and what you'd like to know from your parents and how you'd like them to help you improve the operations or experiences that families have at your site. The electronic recap is another piece of the puzzle that you can establish a frequency of. This typically has a few photos from the play group. Some host organizations are saying, let's do this after every play group. Some were saying, let's do this once a month. And others just, that was the goal, was to do it after every play group, but that became a little tedious sometimes, but it really is possible, just to do something really simple where we shared those photos from the day or the month, and then there's a quick recap of the strength of the day, which was kind of bringing in that strengthening families framework. So that is an element that you can kind of talk to us about. What would you like shared? Also, what news from your organization do you want to go out to all the families? Is there something else going on that's not necessarily connected to 5toONE that you'd like to share? So always giving the host organization a chance to report on activities, events, and other notable activities. The next piece that we have to kind of establish frequency is on-site support. So the Missy and Mary show or other partners, how often would you prefer to see us? Of course, many of you are like, yeah, every time, we want you there. But we will say that our bandwidth may or may not dictate that that's a possibility. But we do have a lot of partners that engaged in the work as well. So we will could think about Born to Read ambassadors. We are going to be touching base with them to see where they are with their volunteers, and just seeing about what's really most helpful to you as far as support from us. At this point, we're trying to gauge, and one of the goals of this time together is to determine a quarterly check-in with all the host organizations and what's going well. How can we improve things? Just general talk about, like, how does this work, or could we think about another way of doing X activity. So that's that support. And then the strengthening families huddle. This is kind of when your parent, this is really more of a lead parent piece, but certainly can be influenced as far as frequency by the host organization. But this is something that's kind of, it's essential to our groups. The parents do miss it. They're like, let's, when can we get back to that huddle piece? I liked, as the lead parent, having that tidbit to share with families, and it really gave them some say and just a way to gather the group and build some connections. So with that, this is kind of the big matrix, so to speak. Mary and I were just kind of doing this, and for host organizations, there will be some version of this. This is just what you saw. It's all the features across the different neighborhood centers that are restarting. The features of them, we'd like to just say what's present at this play group, and then what are some of the frequency pieces that we can build in to better communicate with families and each other about what we're hoping happens with our partnership. So we'll come back to this maybe after, when we start our discussion. But just to help as host organizations, where your events go. I mentioned that paper calendar with all of the play groups is really no longer a thing. It really took a lot of power to get that represented on one sheet of paper. But Facebook events will have, every play group will be, most of you are familiar with how they're listed and as Facebook events. We'd like to make sure you're a co-host, so be checking sometimes for that permission that you have to give in order to be the co-host. Events on 5toone.org. So we're going to start really building in utilizing the 5-county calendar that's been built with this website to promote playgroups and other events across the network. And keeping in mind also, beyond playgroups, a neighborhood center is so much more. So other custom events can also be scheduled and built with our collaboration, including parent summits, early childhood fairs, game nights, networking nights in conjunction with Great Start to Quality to bring education to providers and parents, family adventure days, strong roots programming, and more. Basically, if you can dream it and you want to make something happen for families with young children, and we want to be part of that as one of the neighborhood centers. With that, I am going to, that's kind of the end of what I've shared, just to give us a review of those elements. And I think we'll leave the recording on if there's any comments or questions or things that have come up for you as the host organizations attending, or Mary, things that we want to talk about.
Those quarterly meetings, is that with all the neighborhood networks?
That's a goal. Yes.
Yeah.
Just as host
I
organization.
like that idea. It'd be nice to have a chat with the other locations to talk about like these last things here, and just kind of have a time to network with each other. I think quarterly seems like it's a good start. We're for it.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, well, this was one thing Mary and I talked about. Like, it seemed so hard before the pandemic because we didn't have Zoom and everyone wasn't proficient there. So now this seems so much easier in a lot of respects to make this happen, because it's really no problem to jump on a call together. So yeah, I think we're feeling pretty good about that too. And yeah.
I wonder if there'd be an opportunity too for you to relay important information about early childhood too, if you could, get, somehow funnel it this way. And I don't know what information would be important or not, but if you have anything that would be pertinent.
Yeah, I love that.
That would be a good time.
That's a perfect time. Actually, there was a call that we were on, and Mary, forgive me if it's the wrong one. I can't remember if it was a parent liaison call or a coordinator call, but one of the things that they said was just sharing the data around what are kids' reading levels like in your county, or how many, what are some of that data that we share maybe in an early childhood professional setting, but that could be helpful for our host organization representatives to know, to help influence some of those pieces that might be missing.
Well, and as we ramp up the utilization of the 5toONE.org portal, there's the landing page there is regional data. So we're this far away from having a dedicated person at North Ed who will be able to monitor traffic on 5toONE.org so that we can finally get that piece functional.
Good job. It's amazing. It's an amazing resource. I know you've been working on for quite a while. What about the resource guide, like the printed guide in 2022? Is that a thing again?
Yeah, it is. It's almost ready to go to press, actually. I'm holding it up because I haven't finished my piece yet.
So she's just twiddling her thumbs, doing, nothing.
To do.
Yeah, just social gadflying around.
Here's another thing that kind of came to mind. If we did these quarterly meetings, I wonder if it'd be easier to have a parent crosstalk and Zooms. I just had our collaborative body meeting Zoom this morning. We're trying to be really creative with our breakout rooms. It can be really dedicated. It could be for the neighborhood center. It could be maybe for a county, but where you go into that room and it's really the crosstalk and relationship building might help, I don't know, encourage or retain some parents, and also, keep the ball rolling. So maybe it becomes a thing that we invite more people to be a part of, to see the bigger impact that this is having.
Yes, and actually it's so funny that you said that, because Gaia, in reaching out and not being able to make today, she said, well, just automatically put Doreen on the list. I'm like, well, we want to talk to Doreen, but Doreen, I'm sorry you didn't miss something. We're just trying to get the host organizations gathered up right now. But it's so natural, right, to have that piece where parents are engaged. And you're absolutely right, that retention factor with the parents and being in those lead roles, they would see those bigger, broader connections with the network and perhaps be, inclined to stay on or try something else around.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it's because our collaborative body is now, we don't have the executives that show up like the old days.
Mhm.
right? It's the service providers, the end providers. And so, having the host organization, maybe we go into one breakout room and then the parents go into another breakout room. I think we can be really a lot more creative with our Zooms
Yeah.
than we have been, or at least that I have been. Maybe not you guys, but
Yeah, we've been pretty creative with our Zooms, and
good.
Mitzi's been convening the parent coalition and the lead parents this whole time. So it and honestly, I think there are so many advantages to it, but I think there's still some problems with some folks who would like to participate but are not comfortable participating digitally. And so it's been interesting. But yeah, I think we're all getting a lot better at it. So
And so, yeah, it's true, because some actually have stepped up to participate more because it's
yeah,
through technology, and some are staying away. So,
yeah,
for us, we have the owl. I don't know if you guys know the owl technology for bigger
yeah,
rooms. So,
yeah,
just put that in your pocket too. So if it does have to be hybrid, at least we'd be able to be a part of that, because I know it's important. It's the same with the collaborative body.
yeah,
How do you get as many people engaged as possible? And we said, who wants to come in person next month? It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Some are like, whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And we so North Ed has a couple of owls, and we've used that before. They're really handy. We should probably think about buying our own because they're pretty popular. And I know that when Nick Siglaric travels, he takes it with him. So it's like not even available at the conference center. I did have a quick comment about the electronic recap. We looked at the data on those, and we saw that if they come out within 24 hours after the play group, lots of people, the metrics are good. And if they come out even 2 days later, or God forbid, a week later, nobody opens it. Nobody cares. So I think I think it's an important way to follow up with parents if we can make it work.
Mhm.
And it's a way of getting your messages out, because then people forward those emails. But maybe email isn't the best. I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
maybe email isn't the best way, but it's comfortable for a lot of people.
And
What
if
if
there are registrations that go with it for the next play group, like that's another piece of it that we don't really know about yet, because everything hasn't been totally in sync yet.
Yeah. So just some data. Tom, you were going to say something.
I was curious what the main purpose of those was. Is it to just sort of recap what just happened and prime people for the next play group?
We really, it was a way of kind of closing the loop for parents. Hey, this was a great play group. Here's some cute pictures that we took of you and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happened in huddle, just to remind people about what it was, and to let them know, and here's the next play group, and then any host organization information that would be timely that the host organization wants to share. So just a way of closure for that play group and opening the door to the next one.
Yeah, and the other thing it did is it gave us a chance to, if their feedback, they weren't able to give feedback, that was another place to kind of put in, especially now, I think with some of the more recent play groups, it was a place to give parents a place to, this is what we liked when they couldn't do it in transition, trying to get 3 kids out the door.
Yeah.
So it was just another opportunity.
Do sites that are doing that, do they get good response from that? I'm asking a lot of questions because it seems like something that we could be doing, but
Mhm.
only if it has a good benefit, because that's a time sink.
Yeah, it totally can be. And I'm going to go back since it's been so long. I guess I could go back and I'm going to go back and take a look at that. That makes me curious when you ask that. So to find out when people actually did those evaluations, were they done more right during the playgroup, or were there a significant number of them done as a result of those recaps?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's something that we want to think about. And then you had a list of sort of extra events, a la carte events. And I'm curious if there is established curriculum for those, or if they are just sort of like loose template ideas. Some of those things seem like things we ought to be doing at the museum. A family game night is something that, I've been thinking about getting going anyway.
Mhm.
Do you have any experience with those?
Those, most of them we do have a template for, especially the networking nights. I wouldn't say it's highly scripted, but we have definitely planned and implemented all of those events up to this point. They all look a little different in each setting, of course. But yeah, those are pieces that can be added. I don't know if you want to see them one more time, but I can certainly pull that up. But yeah, those any neighborhood center is kind of open to saying, yeah, hey, we'd like to do this in the spring or this in the fall, or maybe we try this. The parent summit and the early childhood fairs have been a little more labor intensive, obviously, in organizing speakers and people to come and do some education. And naturally, you're already in the Strong Roots programming is kind of something new happening for you. But there are these family adventure day modules that we're hoping to launch too. So yeah, feel free to think about it, just roll it around, and we're happy to help some of those less common events become a reality for any host organization.
Is there a resource that kind of lists what those are?
There is not at this point. This was just something I felt, but it's definitely, I think in convening host organizations more frequently, that's really some exciting kind of cross conversation that could happen and breed some more inspiration maybe to have these events happen at a more regular interval.
So
Yeah, they seem like things that a lot of host organizations might not be able to implement, but seems pretty straightforward for us, not knowing what the curriculum is, but a family game night, that's pretty easy. I like the sound of a family adventure day, even though I don't know what it is, but you just string those words in that order. It's like, okay, that sounds like a great idea.
So Tom, the parent summits and the early childhood fairs are usually county-based.
Okay.
And the 0 to 6 work group in that county usually it drives that. And then, so they would partner with a host organization. So you are different from other host organizations in that you're generating your own programming on a big scale. I mean, Grow Benzie is too, but Grow Benzie is not, is not a museum open to the public in the same way. So I'm just thinking about, I'm not exactly sure what Leelanau County has ever done in terms of an early childhood fair. But that's something they might be interested in doing, although they probably would look for a more central location if they were going to do something like that. In Benzie County, those early childhood fairs have almost always been done at elementary schools because they're usually kind of partnering with kindergarten roundup activities.
Okay.
The only other event type that I left off that list accidentally was a back to school event. So a back to school fair. Grow Benzie's hosted those before. So just a way to get people to come, and whether it's free haircuts or backpacks, school supplies, just that touch base at the end of August to help families think about preparing for the new transitions.
And again, those are usually community-based events that that the 06 work groups are active in helping organize.
But again, this is this quarterly meeting of host organization representatives could really be helpful to understanding those connections that happen when they're really second nature for Mary and I, but they're not always something that our host organizations are directly aware of.
Oh, you should add preschool roundup to
Yeah,
this list.
something else. Well, awesome. So I'm going to bring us back to this little grid here. And if you want to annotate this, or you could actually, if you wanted to have some fun right now, we could stop the recording, but using a way, what are the elements that you feel strongly about for your host organization to incorporate? And just mentioning a frequency around some of those pieces that are listed at the bottom.
So Missy, I have a question about the huddle. I thought the huddle was something that was a standard part of a playgroup.
It is. It's just sometimes the lead parents have said, well, I'd like to have one topic a month that so it is pretty standard overall. So in a way that one's, I guess and this really might be more for the lead parents, but because it is so standard and it's just a way for the parents to kind of talk as opposed to what the host organization does.
Okay.
So.
And then we should talk a little bit about the book provision. In the past, we've partnered, 5toONE has partnered with Born to Read, and to provide free books at every playgroup. So the funding for that has pretty much been used up, and so now we're wondering if that is even the best way to help families get literacy materials, because the way that we were purchasing those books from Scholastic, it was pretty much the same titles all the time. And so eventually pretty much every family has multiple copies of almost every title. So how important do you feel providing free books to families is at each playgroup? And then also thinking about, are there other partners that we could be engaging with who might want to be present at the playgroups, have a presence at the playgroup, and be supporting literacy materials in some way?
Yeah, it sounds like we don't have any lack of distributors. There's a lot of people who are in the business of giving away books in our region. It just sounds like just providing them the resources to do that.
So when you say providing them the resources to do that, tell me more about what that is.
So during our, I'm blanking on the name of the group, but our book distribution group, we're talking with several organizations, and they have, seems like they have a lot of books. They're just looking for funding to go where the kids are, right, and distribute them. That was my understanding from that meeting.
Okay, so they need money to be able to go to bring books to the Children's Museum, for example?
I think so. That was my understanding from those meetings, although I was a little in over my depth and just kind of trying to get the lay of the land there. Anyway, all I mean to say is it seems like there are a lot of book providers, organizations that are in the business of giving away books in our region. And if they had the resource, they could do that at our playgroups. Does that sound right-ish?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also something that Mary and I, depending on how the host organizations feel about that, and say, yes, we want our families to get a book every playgroup that they come to, then we can also reach out to those literacy partners to say, hey, these are the needs of the different host organizations. How can you help? help with that if they're already distributing those literacy materials.
We have our Dolly Parton Imagination Library is one group.
Mhm.
I would want to talk to Gaia about what her thoughts are. I would just think more books, the better
Mhm.
for us. Are these new books?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were purchasing books through Scholastic Books. So
Yeah.
they're, for the most part, they were Scholastic book editions of high quality children's literature. I guess
Yeah.
that is something that, so there's a new literacy hub that's coming online through the Great Start to Quality Resource Center and the United Way that is hopefully going to improve our ability to get literacy materials out into the hands of families and create literacy activities and support collaboration across the 10 county regions. So one of the things that, so I'm wearing my resource center hat now, one of the things that we want to do is to really take a look at the quality of the literature that we're pushing out. And I know that Cara Gregory has, she's thought a lot about that. Power Book Bags has thought a lot about the books, specifically the books that they want to distribute, and making sure that kids aren't getting repeat titles and things. So we kind of want to understand how they do that. I don't know that there'll be funding to purchase, like they spend a lot on books, and I'm not sure that level of funding is available for the 10 county region, but at least we can be really thoughtful about what books and materials are going out. And there's a model that was developed at a childcare center in Kingsley, actually, Pitter Patter, that we would kind of like to mold into a best practice where families take a book, but they also take materials home with them to do enrichment activities with the book, rather than just sending the book home. So, some ideas emerging through this literacy hub and through our work with childcare providers and with reading specialists at ISDs, and then wanting to connect all of that with the wisdom and experience of all of the literacy nonprofits that are out there. I mean, it's really been kind of interesting. I'll just say as an aside that as we've been putting this literacy hub together, when I talk to the other counties outside of our 5 counties, and I ask them, so who are your nonprofit literacy partners? They don't have any.
Oh, geez.
How many do we have? And it just feels very strange. I think there must be partners out there that just haven't connected with them yet. But I guess this is something that we kind of want the feedback from the host organizations about what their preferences are and how we can support that for that literacy connection.
Well, I'll have to chat with Gaia because this is kind of her
Great.
world. I don't want to overpromise, but I think also chatting, I think the goal would be to have books, chat with our work group, and then see. We're really figuring out how much time Gaia is going to be available to develop this work group, how much time she's going to be able to invest with this with our neighborhood center.
Mhm.
So make sure we have the base, and then add on,
Yeah.
okay, books is another thing, or food is another thing. So I don't want her to get too far down a rabbit hole.
Well, and for you guys, your partners with Early Head Start have brought the snack too. So like the food piece is kind of done. So if there are, I don't know, just for fun, what I will do is make get a spreadsheet version of this table out to you guys and just have you fill it in with what's important. And then on the bottom ones, just put, I'll maybe put some directions, but electronic recap, monthly, after every group. Those are kind of the choices. Strengthening families huddle. Do you want one topic a month or two? Parent advisory time. Do you want it monthly, quarterly, every 6 months? You can decide that. And then on-site support, just to have somebody come, whether it's me or maybe Mary or maybe Bailey from the United Way, bring with materials and whatnot. Another partner, maybe, on-site support other than like your lead parent, or other partners who may or may not be as consistent. So just to get that feedback from you guys consistently, so we can also help parents know, again, the COVID stuff is changing all the time too, right? We have some neighborhood centers that, that's gonna it's not a thing. So just
Well, the other thing that for us to consider is having Sarah May, who's our work group leader, our coordinator, and our collaborative leader, be the contact person for our organization. I mean, because the reality is we don't have any funding for this. And it's real hard for us to say to the community, that's what we're figuring out with our strategic plan, is how do we convey to the community that their support of Grow Benzie helps all these things. We haven't spent much time in that over the last few years. So that's what we're working on now, to kind of prioritize all the cool things that we do and know where our time goes. So I think Sarah, with that Think Babies grant, might be able to spend a little bit of time to be that person and develop it, versus Gaia.
So I guess, I mean, since we have you here, I assume that the individual flyer promoting when your play groups are is something that you want from us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to stick with our online pre-registration protocol?
Yeah.
Okay. How about the QR code on-site electronic registration?
Yeah, I think there were two kind of thoughts and ways that we could go with this, and you can kind of pick. One is that, yes, there has to be a health screening with every person who enters the building.
Well, that's the next one. Like, I'm just thinking about the QR code for on-site registration. Like, that's for the people who just show up.
Mhm.
Right. That's for the people who didn't register in advance.
Yeah. The next question is, what do you think about a health check-in? Like, do you want to continue to do a health check-in, or have you quit doing health check-ins, or?
So which one do you want us to answer?
Well, so let's look at just the QR code on-site electronic registration. So can people register
At the door.
at the door?
Yeah.
And
I
they
think that is nice, as long as that doesn't require labor every week, right? Okay. Yeah, then yes, that's great.
So instead of people signing in on a piece of paper, they can.
Yep, they just register like anyone. The nice part is for families, if they do it beforehand, we just say, oh, hi, you're here, walk in. And then if they don't, they scan it, and it takes them 2 minutes to register in the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't they need to do that? I mean, everybody needs to, that's how we would capture attendance, is they would have to sign in when they get there.
No, because I sign, so whoever's kind of looking at the check-in that morning just kind of puts, there's a color coding on all of the sheets that says who came. So you can see that on some of the spreadsheets. So I'll try to once they show up, they don't have to sign in again or anything like that.
So there is labor involved in checking people in.
Slight, but it's not. And I guess that's something that could be that could be, you know, thought about in a different way. But at this point, it is fair. It's pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy to do that, but there's a little bit of labor.
But
We have to register everybody though to get them, right? We have to take attendance.
yeah, we need attendance. So my question is, can't we just use a QR code when they get there to sign in? And then there's no, I mean, that there can still be a person welcoming them, but there isn't, where we can get away from pieces of paper and pencils.
Somebody actually then, so the issue is, will we have enough, is there enough bandwidth of the people, staff, like who are part of the group, to actually color code the people who've registered to show that they're actually present?
They'd flash the QR code when they got there. And that would be the,
Well, then this would be a different QR code.
yeah,
Yeah. Because QR codes take you to a website, right? And it won't be pre-populated. So they'd have to re-register with a different QR code when they get there.
Yeah, so it's kind of there's the registration code, and then there's the additional check-in code.
that would be, that would just be that I'm here with.
Yeah.
Is that already, you already have this working where people just flash something and
That part, that would be,
takes all their info? I'm
Yeah.
interested in knowing how to do that, but
yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you set it up. You could set it up as a really simple code. Just tell us your first name and your, or whatever whatever two quick things, and it literally would be a 10-second, could be, but it's another document to add to the mix.
Well, we could be checked against the registration list.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're all Google Forms or something, then, but that's something that our secretary can do, as opposed
To me.
to something that has to happen at the
Mm-hmm.
at the entry to the play group that the host organization has to hassle with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that this sounds like, it sounds like you guys would support us coming up with a system that would do that.
how was the response for QR codes and for this check-in?
For registration, it was
Yeah, I
great.
mean,
Yeah.
do we have people getting negged out because they have to pre-register, they have to do these other things? Do we
No.
lose numbers?
Every
Yeah.
once in a while, I had one person that, you know, was just having a hard time, but that was one person in I don't know how many. So you do have the odd person that's like, I just want to walk in the door and tell somebody I'm here. Why do I need to use my phone and scan a thing? But I think most folks liked the registration. I guess I wasn't paying very close attention on how the not the registration, but you know, registering people as they're coming through the door was happening.
Mhm.
I think it's important, you know, I like the scanning for registration, or maybe the scanning for check-in, but I don't want to send people through too many steps just to walk through a door.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know what the easiest way is going to be to do that.
I like it. If you guys can pursue that and figure that out, that would be that'd be ideal in
Yeah.
many ways, I would think.
Well, and one thing that it could do is, depending on, and again, once you add another code to the mix, because we already have one for registration, and if
Yeah.
the health check-in, that may or may not last forever,
Well, are people doing health check-ins?
that has been a more of a difficult piece once they've registered. Okay, now you got to do your health screening.
Well, I mean, I'm asking Josh and Tom, are you guys requiring health check-ins?
We're not anymore. No.
Yeah, we still are. So in order to come to the museum at any point, you register, you get your tickets, and then as you're getting your tickets, you have to say, yes, none of these people have COVID symptoms. So it's just a little disclaimer,
Mhm.
just kind of a reminder.
Okay.
It's not very intense. It's not, you know, asking like, how your diarrhea has been recently, but just, just like, hey, is anybody
Pretty good.
sick,
It's better.
runny nose, fever, and then they have to say one way or the other.
Okay, so for the museum, that could be combined.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm
Yeah.
answering these questions. That could be one QR code that works for you guys.
Mhm.
And Benzie, the Grow Benzie would have a different QR code that would just say, I'm here.
Okay.
I think it's good to remind folks these days, just like it is good to stay home if you feel sick, and you wouldn't think that folks need that reminder, but as they're walking through a door, it is good these days to just say, hey, and if are you feeling sick? Everybody feeling healthy? And they can go, yeah, that we're all feeling good. They're welcome to lie to you, but it's
Yeah.
just a good reminder that it's important.
Yeah.
And we are getting signage that reflects that, what Tom's talking about, for, still wear a mask if you're not comfortable, or whatever the health department's sending us. So we're still following those things, but.
You guys are both in the same health department. So that was another one of our questions, was just, it's not so much a question as we are actually following the advice of Benzie Leelanau District Health Department, because the Grand Traverse Health Department doesn't provide advice.
Right. Yep, that's been our experience too. And that's our answer for any of the precautions there. It's not a simple yes or no. It's really whatever the health department is saying we should do. I don't want to say yes or no to masks, because right now the health department says wear them, so we're saying wear them. If they say don't wear them, we're going to stop.
Okay, so following COVID-19 recommendations.
Yeah.
The better way to say it.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Health department recommendations.
Whatever the health department says we ought to do is what we are going to do.
Yeah.
Guidelines.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. And do you guys have, I guess, I'll fix that stuff up. Any thoughts regarding snack? Something you want to do, get back to, something you want to delay?
I think it's always great when we can. We're willing to provide the funding for it, and we had a pretty good system here that I think we can start back up. Sorry, Josh, didn't mean to talk over you.
Same.
Okay. Book provision.
Yeah, more books is better.
Okay.
If it's an available resource, we'd like to hand them out.
Okay. And a link for the feedback, the QR code for feedback.
Might as well.
Where does that go? Is that
Well,
when they leave the building, or is that sent in the email?
it's something that can be done in either place, and typically both. There's usually a link for feedback that would go with the recap. And then there's also a place our lead parents try to encourage families to scan it and fill it out, maybe at the end of the huddle before they're trying to get out the door, maybe when there's a quiet moment. On site before they leave tends to produce the best results.
We used to use the sticky notes on what I liked, what my kid liked, and what we should change. And I mean, it worked fine, but it's labor intensive and used up a lot of paper. A lot of colored sticky notes, like the worst kind of papers.
Yeah. So I guess that we're in our last 6 minutes here, but if there is, so Josh, any thoughts on the feedback piece? Does that seem like workable, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Electronic.
It'd be interesting to see how you can clarify those QR codes. We're in the same predicament where you can put that logo in the middle, but I wonder if you could just put feedback or check in.
And we've had a couple, like what works best, like Tom has it at the museum, and it's just boom, boom, boom. Actually, you guys have one at Grow Benzie too. And it just says it's basically a big table, and there are 3 codes right underneath, and there's a little headline as to which one does what. Electronic recap frequency, I guess you don't have to know now, and you could always change it, but if you have an idea, whether you'd want it kind of after each playgroup or monthly in a perfect world, or one time a month after one playgroup, either of those would work.
I'd probably either do them monthly or quarterly.
Okay.
I am very careful not to send stuff out that's not important.
Mhm.
So if it's something that I am going to be filling with, just like try and find material to put enough in there,
Mhm.
then I'd rather not do it at all.
Yeah, I would say if you're not, I honestly, this is just based on the data and the feedback from parents. I would say if you're not going to do it after everyone, right when people are out the door, I wouldn't bother with it.
Okay.
Because it really was intended to be an immediate thing.
Yeah.
It like this is, look at all the fun you just had. So it was a way of getting some pictures to people of things that happened at playgroup that they could share with other people that they themselves didn't have to take, because we would rather that parents were not standing around taking pictures of their kids doing things on their phones. We would rather that caregivers were doing things with their kids.
Mhm.
So that was the whole intent, was to close the loop, which is something that's really important to us in 5toONE, is to never leave people hanging.
Yeah.
And so that's what the purpose was. People don't read quarterly, monthly. They don't read that stuff.
Right.
So I would say if it's not something that you want to commit to, or that we want to commit to immediately, I would say, just based on the data, that there's no, we should just table it for now and come back to it once we go up and going again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The other side of that is within there's kind of, and COVID has changed some of the way I think about the Great Start parents communications as well, because that tends to be my more magazine of like regional events and activities that parents can pick and choose from. The 5toONE and 5toONE it could switch to more of an update feature too, like just a reminder, here's all the playgroups that are happening this week, pick which ones you'd like to register for, and if you went to one and you want to leave some feedback, that's another piece. But that's something I'm kind of playing with, and Mary and I can probably talk it out more later, but those are just some other options too. So if it's not a recap that's happening after every playgroup, it could be something different, it could be nothing for the moment.
Mhm.
There's always Facebook.
Always Facebook.
Meta.
Mm-hmm. And that may be a simpler way to just share, hey, look at the fun we had today.
Mhm.
So we can pause on that. There don't have to be any decisions. So strengthening families huddle, I'm going to turn that to the parents, I think, for a one topic a month versus, two, depending on the number of play groups. And then parent advisory time frequency, that might be another parent piece, but do you guys have any thoughts on that, Josh or Tom?
Yeah, how often would you like to meet with parents to just check in and make sure things are cooking along the way they're supposed to?
Do you have any experience? So I'm thinking either very briefly every single time, or in a quarterly sit down.
Mhm.
More of a sit down would be kind of the thought there. I mean, check in daily, like naturally it would be something that we think really happens pretty
Yeah.
naturally. You guys are talking to the lead parents. It's not like you ignore each other unless we're forcing you to be together.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
might do a quarterly sit down and exclude the summer, just because it's hard to sit down at all
Mm-hmm.
up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think being more intentional about those advisories is better than, just ad hoc,
Mhm.
quick conversation. Lake Ann used to do, I think they used to try to do it every month, and I think they wound up settling on quarterly. one of the things that we found with another host organization was that the host organization leadership was afraid to make a suggestion to the parents that they wanted to do things a little bit differently. And the parents had no idea that the host organization was happy. And so they were gonna not host playgroup anymore. And all it took was, oh, well, did you say anything to the parents? Well, no, we thought that it had to go this way. Oh, no, it can go
Yeah.
however you want. You're the host organization. And it totally fixed the situation. So I think,
I gotta go, you guys. I have a noon.
okay,
Thanks,
good.
See ya.
Todd.
Oh yeah, good to see you. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, so I think you're on track, Tom, to make it more intentional and kind of facilitate the conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think there's some possibilities as far as, I think we like to be part of those advisory meetings, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be some overlap within this structure of quarterly host organization check-in, where maybe twice a year the parents are invited, and that's how we could accomplish some of those same check-in, sit-down talks.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
well, it is noon, so we should let Tom go.
Thank you, Tom. And I
It
have
was
to go
great to
too
talk
and deliver a computer to a daughter who forgot it. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for checking in, and we'll see you on the flip side. Oh, any idea on start date, Tom? Is March a time where you guys would want to start back up, or are you thinking you want to push it out after spring break, or?
Oh, I think we can go ahead and get started whenever you guys want to. I just have to make sure we don't have any exclusive use, because right now, technically those sessions are for sale.
Okay.
So do you think you want to get started sooner rather than later, March rather than April?
It's really, there's no preference on our end.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk it over with Mike and see what we have already sold and
Okay.
see how early we can start.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
See ya. Bye. Good to see you both.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. Well, in a way, I'm sorry that more people didn't come. On the other hand, I'm glad that we at least had